Hello everyone, this is Sudhakar. Welcome to my troubleshooting and debugging channel. In our previous tutorial, we have learned how to create a simple Ansible playbook and how to create our first Python library. And also we have learned how we can invoke a Python library by using Ansible playbook. In this Ansible tutorial, today's tutorial, we will look at how you can integrate an Ansible with Jenkins for continuous delivery from a DevOps point of view. And most importantly, in a DevOps world, we majorly work with CI/CD for continuous delivery and continuous deployment. Jenkins is very popular tool, and Jenkins also has a lot of support for Ansible. So let us see how you can leverage the Jenkins plugins, Jenkins Ansible plugin to invoke whatever we have created in our previous tutorial, the playbook. Without further delay, let's get started. As a part of this tutorial, first I'm gonna bring up one of my Jenkins instance. I have a Jenkins instance which is already running. So let me quickly go to the Jenkins console. First of all, I wanted to check whether my Jenkins instance is running up and running. So my Jenkins instance is up and running. So I just simply execute installed Jenkins in my one of the virtual machine, and I'm gonna access my Jenkins here. So by using localhost on port number 8080, I could able to access my Jenkins instance. I already set up the Jenkins, so I'm not going to explain how I configured it, but I'm just simply logging into the Jenkins instance. And this is my home page where I have a Jenkins. And let me bring back the uh, playbook which we have created in our previous tutorial. So here you can see we have a playbook called testmode.yml, and we have a playbook, a simple playbook which we have written in our previous tutorial. So in order to execute this playbook from Jenkins, first of all, I need to put this whole code into a Git repository, so that in a Jenkins pipeline, I can download the Git repository and I can execute the playbook from the Jenkins itself. So first I will navigate to my Git repository in order to create a, a, a sample repo. So here I'm going to create a live Ansible Jenkins demo. This is my repository name, and I'm going to create it. So I already have a code. That's why I'm going to choose the second option. So I'm going to choose this option here. So I'm navigating to my live folder where we have our Ansible files and our inventory. So I'm just copy pasting the command to initialize the Git. So here Git is not yet initialized. So let me initialize the Git. Now I'm going to add a remote repository, and then I'm going to create a branch for it. And the last step would be I'm going to push the code into my new Git repository. Okay, I think I need to add the files. This would be my first initial commit, first commit, and git push origin. My branch would be main. That's it. So I have pushed my code into a Git repository. Let me refresh my page here. And you can see my first repository has been created. And here I would need my uh, complete path to the Git repository so that I can use this in the Jenkins pipeline creation. So here I'm in my Git Jenkins console. So here I'm going to create a job. But before we create a job, we need to create a Jenkins pipeline. So I'm going to use a declarative Jenkins pipeline. If you are not aware how to create a Jenkins pipeline, declarative Jenkins pipeline, let us see how we can create Jenkins. As usual, I'm gonna look for the options here from the Jenkins documentation. Sorry, it would be Jenkins pipeline syntax. So here you can see it's a Jenkins documentation and it's a declarative pipeline. It would start like a pipeline. Let me grab one example. So here you can see one example over here. I'm gonna copy the content of the pipeline, and in my folder, Git folder, I'm gonna create a file called Jenkins file. I'm sorry, it should be a Jenkins file, and I'm going to paste the content of inside this file. So here, I don't want to make the things complicated, but let me delete this for now. And here you can see this is a simple pipeline where agent is any. That means it will run this pipeline on any agent in the Jenkins. And I have a stages, and the first stage is just an example. I'm not going to make any changes here, but I want to just run the pipeline, see whether it is successfully able to pull the Git repo and able to execute this stage. I'm going to add this file into my Git repository. Okay, that's it. So we have added our Jenkins pipeline. Let me go back to the Jenkins console and let me create a new job. So this would be my first Ansible pipeline. And here in the options, I'm going to select the pipeline option because this is the declarative Jenkins pipeline. When you select the freestyle project, you are required to write commands or steps in the pipeline itself. But here we are going to select the pipeline. So it would be a Jenkins file which will be referred. And here in the configuration section, I'm not going to touch anything here, but I'm just directly going into pipeline option. Here in the pipeline option, you have a provision that you can write the same text, whatever you have written in the file. You can simply write this content here, or you can refer from the source control manager. So because our all Ansible files are in the repository, that's why I wanted to keep the Jenkins file also as part of repository so that when we are executing the Jenkins job, the Ansible files and Jenkins file both will be referred from the Git repository. So here is a Git repo URL I need to paste here. So let me copy the Git URL, complete URL. Because it's a public repository, there we no need to provide any credentials. And my branch would be main, and that's all. So you don't need to touch anything else. And make sure whatever the Jenkins file you have created, it should be matching with the script path here, the Jenkins file. Otherwise, the job would fail to find out the corresponding Jenkins file. Click on save, and let me click on build now. So you can see here the first build got started. If I open, so it is success. So that means the Jenkins can able to download the Git repository and it is able to find out a Jenkins file, and also it executed the stage inside it. But our focus is on how to execute Ansible playbook. So let's find out how you can invoke an Ansible playbook inside a Git repository. So I will check for how to invoke Ansible playbook from Jenkins. So here you can find a lot of options which are provided by different resources, but I'm going to use again the Jenkins official documentation, and you can find here the Jenkins official documentation is talking about Ansible plugin. And here we have a lot of options provided, and I'm mostly particularly interested in. First of all, if you see here, it is a plugin. It is a plugin inside Jenkins. So that means you need to install Ansible plugin before you integrate Ansible with Jenkins. Let me go back to the Jenkins and navigate to Manage Jenkins. And inside Manage Jenkins dashboard, you can see Manage Plugins option. So inside Manage Plugins option, there is an option called Available Plugins. Search for Ansible, and you will get an option here. So you can see the plugin is available. There, you can see the time when it was released. It is released 2 days, 17 hours ago. This particular Ansible 174.vf version. So I'm going to select the Ansible option and click on install without restart. So once it's installed, it will show you success. Yeah, that means it's successfully installed. Now we have Ansible integrated with Jenkins. Now let's look for the syntax, how you can write an Ansible block inside a Jenkins file. So you can see here, Ansible playbook, invoke an Ansible playbook. So this is the block which we need to trigger an Ansible playbook from the Jenkins file. So I'm going to use this as a reference. And inside the steps, I'm going to use the same word, Ansible playbook. Inside Ansible playbook, it is expecting a playbook name, which is in a string format. Here we need to pass playbook path, so entire path for the playbook. So in my case, I have a Jenkins file in the same place where I have a playbook as well. So I can simply put like a testmod.yml. This is my playbook, and there are certain fields are mandatory. If you see here, uh, he clearly mentioned which are all optional. But in order to run the playbook, we also know that we need a playbook and also inventory. These are all mandatory fields in order to invoke Ansible playbook from the Jenkins. Otherwise, it will not be able to connect to the remote server, and it will not be able to find where exactly and how exactly it needs to connect to the server as well. That's why we need to pass these values. So we have passed already playbook. Now we need to pass the inventory file, inventory.yml, and the credential ID. So basically, uh, when we are executing an Ansible playbook from the command line, so we are referring a command like Ansible playbook -i inventory and then playbook. And also here we're passing -u username and we're asking for the password. So in order to simulate the same command in an Ansible plugin, so we have an option called credential ID. That credential ID is nothing but we need to create one username and password combination inside the Jenkins. I will show you how to create the credential ID. Let me put the word here and here Ansible connect. So this would be my credential ID. Now I need to create a credential ID with exactly the same name, Ansible connect. So let me go back Ansible page and go to manage Jenkins. And in the manage Jenkins dashboard, we have an option called manage credentials. Click on it. And under the global domains, I will clone add the credential. So here, username with password. There are multiple options available. SSH username with private key, secret file, secret text. I'm going with the username and password for connecting to my target machine when when Ansible wants to connect. So I'm just providing username and password for it. My virtualbox user would be vbox user and the password for the corresponding. And here in the ID section, you need to use the exact name credential ID which you were referring in the Jenkins file and click on create. Now I have this Ansible Connect credential created. That's exactly the same name I was referring here. Let me change the stage name, invoke Ansible playbook. So that would be all. So we have created our Jenkins file, which is ready to invoke Ansible playbook. Let me commit the code and let's see how exactly it will work. Okay, I have committed my code. I'm navigating to the Jenkins dashboard again, and I'm executing my pipeline one more time by clicking on the build now option. So here the second job is triggered, second build, and you can see here it is executing the similar way. So though we haven't configured how to execute or how to run the command, Ansible command, but the Ansible playbook plugin itself is formatted the command in such a way how we are executing it manually. That's how the Ansible playbook invoking the Ansible playbook plugin is invoking the Ansible playbook execution in the Jenkins. Now you can see we have referred the credential ID. That's where it is referring the username and password, and it is trying to execute the playbook by using the inventory. So in inventory, I have a IP address of my virtual machine, and this virtual machine ID I'm referring in my testmod.yml file. And my job successfully executed, and it printed the output as we see in the command line when we execute last time in the previous tutorial. Now there is one more option which you can pass. So if you are more interested to see a colorized output, because we have a provision for colorized output, you can see an output in a color format. So here there is an option called colorized. I want to use this colorized option to show you how it will look like when you enable this option. It is a Boolean, so I'm using colorized option as a true. In order to work this colorized option, we need to have one more plugin need to be installed. That is it should be inside the options. That is ANSI color. In a Jenkins, we have this plugin called ANSI color. Let me look for it. So this ANSI color will provide a colorized output, and this plugin we need to install first. And this is how you can refer the colorized output. So I have added my color option now for the Ansible output. Let me commit the code and we will see how exactly it is working with color. I'm navigating back to the Jenkins pipeline and I'm trying to invoke the pipeline again by triggering the build now option. This time it got failed because though we have provided the option ANSI color in the Jenkins pipeline, but we haven't installed the plugin yet. In order to install the plugin, again, go back to Manage Jenkins, click on Manage Plugins, and click on the available plugins, and look for ANSI color. So here you can find it, ANSI color. Click on Install without restart, and once it is success, so you can go back and execute the Ansible, sorry, our pipeline again. So build now. Let me re-trigger. I think something else is causing this issue. So invalid option type ANSI color and valid options are so on. So it is showing. Let me go back to the example which is provided by Ansible. Let me find out what exactly it is. So it is options ANSI color, which is correct in our case. ANSI color extern, it's in an options. So there is no wrong. Something else causing this issue. Let me go back to the plugin and let me see if it is really installed or not. So I think it is installed. So ANSI color installed successfully. And in the pipeline, the build wrapper. So this is correct. Let me execute the job one more time. No, it's still failing. So that means there is something else causing the issue. Let's find out. It seems like that the plugin is successfully installed and there is no code issue, but seems the issue is causing, and I would rather want to try restarting the instance. Maybe sometimes after you install the Ansible, sorry, any plugins in the Jenkins, sometimes the plugins might require a restart. So let me try the restart option and we will run the job again to see if it is reflecting or not. In a coding perspective, that option is correct and we have placed it exactly in the correct way. So these options on ANSI color is pretty much right format, and it should work. Let us see how exactly it will work after we reboot the instance of Jenkins. So here we have rebooted and I'm going to log in again, and I'm going to trigger the build by clicking on build now, and you can see the new build got triggered. And yep, I think it is working now. So you can see it has gone through the previous error state, and this is how exactly the color coding is working when we use colorized equal to true. So this is just a user-friendly view. That's why I just insisted to show you how the color coding is working. And if you go back to the previous build where we do not have a color, and here, so it feels like pretty much look and feel. That's the only thing. Other than that, the output is same exactly before color and without color and with color. So there is no change in that in the output. I think that would be all for this today's demo. I hope you all enjoy the session, and thank you.